Wake
Wake
up.
up. That's
Good
great.
morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Did you know
Yes,
that?
it is. Exactly. Did
I
you know
said
that
that to Cassie.
everything you
I
sorry
said
you
that to
said
Cassie this morning. She goes, "Well, then isn't every day we wake up the first day of the rest of our lives?" And I said, "Yes, it
yeah.
is."
Wow.
Yeah.
And I would add to that, everything that happened yesterday and that came before yesterday is really irrelevant. So
Yep.
why are we wasting all of our time and energy and space on in the past? You
That
know?
is a great foot forward in how stop giving a shit about what people think about us.
Absolutely.
Daniel, do you ever deal
Absolutely.
with um, what other people think about you?
No, Ben, I never deal with that. What are
Never.
you talking about?
You're impervious, right?
I think I deal with it on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
giving a shit is the really, really fun part here, right?
Yeah.
And you and I both grew up in businesses and we are in businesses in which having people giving a shit was made so significant,
Oh my
right?
gosh. Yeah.
I
So
mean, it
for
was
those of
like
you that can't tell, I'm an actor. We're actors.
yeah,
We're in the
exactly.
theater where we really, you know, we're trained to have people see us and
And
give a
critique
shit
us.
and critique
Yeah.
us and make sure they think we're wonderful
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
please on all parts, right? And really, like, I personally learned to be a chameleon, and like I was incredible at that. It's how I survived, really. I think a lot of these
Sure.
things that we're dealing with are how we survive. So in a home where it felt not always safe, I literally learned to change my energy on a dime to adjust to the situation, and I could do that anywhere. And
Yeah.
it's what made me a great actor. But at some point I was like, I don't even know who I am. And I even had a roommate that's like, I really would like you to be like meaner to people. I think you care way too much. You need to
Mhm.
start telling people to fuck off. And it's really like, I don't know. He's like, it's something that's hard to watch in you.
That's also an
And
interesting perspective, isn't it?
yeah,
Somebody else telling you what makes them uncomfortable, and therefore we oftentimes will find ourselves trying to be something else for somebody else just so that they don't feel uncomfortable. The
yeah.
same story is for me. I like what you said. I think the word you said being a chameleon. That's
Hmm.
so in my universe. That is so. Rainbows and unicorns because it was like uh being a chameleon was more like having multiple personalities for me. You know what I mean? It was like I
Yeah.
wasn't I wasn't gonna blend in this one and do this and do that. It was like, okay, I'm here and I have to be this personality, and I'm here and I have to be this personality, and I'm here and I have to be this personality, and I'm around these people and I have to be this personality. You know,
Mm.
and I think, I mean, look at the professions that we chose. We chose these professions in which we could actually make that work, right? Jump into these other characters, be these other characters, and embody them and have them be believable. Because in our day to day lives, we had to be believable in every situation. We just weren't truly authentic to us.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, like, when was the point in which you actually did, because Ben, I didn't even know that I was doing that, by the way. I just
Mm.
thought it was what everybody did,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
At what point did you recognize and realize that that was not, I'm going to say, the norm, that it was um that you were not being truly you all the time?
It was usually, so I was pretty self-expressed. I was myself. I really, I wrote my own songs. I tried to honor that as a musician, as an actor. I
Hmm.
tried to create my own stuff, but in order to like get work, or to really be successful, I would try to get into these places, but it was, I think what hit me is after midnight. Like it was always like after midnight, I would be partying, I'd be with someone, I'd be putting drugs and alcohol in my body, and I would
Uh-huh.
think, this isn't me. And I'd be terrified. And I had that
Hmm.
experience over and over and over and over.
Right.
And I would wait, like, come to with like hanging, like realizing I was partying with guys like 20 years older than me in
Hmm.
their 40s or 50s. And one day I was like, wait a second, why are these guys like hanging out with someone half their age, like desperate for a friend. And I started to look at the people I was keeping around me. And then the other thing was, I was actually, there's a quick funny story. So the cowboy from the Village People,
Hmm.
Randy Jones, he lives in New
Yeah.
York City. He's a friend of mine. He calls himself, I call him Uncle Randy.
Uh-huh.
He's really sweet. Him and his partner, I've known them for 15 years. And we were like two celebrity personalities that would hang out together. It's like this. I mean, he totally works. I mean, he's still the Village People cowboy. He's
Yes,
still like milking that.
absolutely.
So as
Yeah.
the Dell guy, it was kind of inspiring because was like, that was over for me. And I was like, oh, here's someone really milking it. So I went to his wedding, and it was in a club in Times Square, I think at like Y2K time. And there was this old man there by himself, and I could tell that he was kind of important.
Hmm.
And at some point, I sat down and he said something to me, and he was like, "Come over and sit by me for a second." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, and he said, "He's like, I just want you to know, I know who you are, and I think you're really incredibly talented, but you will not make it until you put down the drugs and alcohol." He's like,
Wow.
"That's holding you back." And um, I think you have a lot of potential, and I'd love to stay in touch. And he did stay in touch with me. It was so incredible. Like there was angels that were telling me
All the time. Yeah.
that. And my friend who said like, I really wish you would be more of an asshole to people. Like he really cared about me. He saw that I was like just such a people pleaser, and
Mhm.
it just had me not being really authentic. I was starting to lie. I was starting to lie to myself, and just getting in these like situations that just started to feel really gross. And
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get out. But all these little stories I'm sharing, all these little seeds were planted. They've clearly stuck with me, and it was enough of those that took me, started to bring the awareness up.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think I was open to it. I didn't want to hear those things at the time, but it's just when I was not living my truth, and I felt like I was dying inside spiritually, and I had to ask for help, and it took me a
Yeah.
while to kind of get real and find out what matters to me. But I really had to stop lying to myself, and I
Can I
had to
ask you a
start
question?
building.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing. I had to start
Yeah.
building esteemable acts to create more self-esteem, to like find myself. I had
Oh,
to start doing stuff I love, because I
I
wouldn't
love
do
that.
anything alone. I wouldn't see a movie alone. I wouldn't travel alone. I wouldn't do anything alone. I was
Wow.
terrified of being alone, mostly because I was terrified of being with myself.
Of course. I love that term, esteemable acts. That's pretty amazing. That may be the name of your autobiography, actually, one day.
I
My
love
question
that.
is, because I had, like we've talked about, I had a similar experience in terms of like the circles that I was in and the choices that I was making. And you mentioned something that really stuck out to me. You said that after midnight, right, which also would be a great name for your autobiography. After midnight, when the drugs came out or all this came out, I'm curious, what was what was the belief or what was the point of view that you had to choose that in that second?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't even think it was conscious. I don't think it was that conscious. I think it
right.
was mostly like I just didn't. I mean, clearly I didn't feel like enough, and I was trying to fill some hole, some void.
Right.
And
Maybe even just having the people around you,
yeah, yeah, I
the
think that was a big
community
part of
or
it. Yeah, like not wanting to be alone.
yeah.
I think, I mean, it was very like people are like, oh, come here, you'll come in for free, we'll give you free bottles. It
Yeah.
made me
Yeah.
feel important and
Sure.
seen, and a place to like, I don't know, stand out. And I guess I mean, I practiced being myself there in hindsight with some friends, but there was really like, at some point, just trying to like figure out what people want so that I could jump through that hoop in order to like get that success.
Right.
And what's so interesting and ironic is that I believe that actors and we all go to acting school to actually learn how to stop acting. Like you get these skills, but then you really have to learn like the best actors are ones that are just real, right?
Authentic.
Just
Yeah.
present, just
Yeah.
listening. So I feel like I've had to do all this work just to come back to myself. And I don't think I ever asked like, you know, what do I if I didn't worry about what other people thought, you know, if I didn't, and I was also worrying, you know, once I became the Dell guy, what is that made it so much bigger because now the whole country knew about me and Dell was watching me and all these other
Sure.
things. And I continued to crumble under that pressure. I continued to not, I could feel that my true self was under there, but I didn't know how to access it. So I just was doing the acts of showing up to all the places and saying yes, thinking I would get a break. And really, I was breaking myself.
Exactly.
So I would love, I'm really curious if anyone's listening, if they can resonate with any of this. And one of the things I see really how this has taken over in modern day is in social media and how people are literally changing their face, their appearance, their bone structure, their voices, their everything to fit in, to gain more followers, and then what, right? To gain more validation, and then what?
Sure.
My coach actually gave me, and if you watch my reels, you'll see like a 30-day challenge just to like practice telling my story and be more myself. And that actually has been like a little challenging just to like be totally real because I've had all these characters I've been playing throughout my life.
Yeah.
And if we are real, like we're so afraid of sharing our truth, like someone's going to leave us. For me, here it is, Daniel, it just hit me. The fear of being alone. And
Okay.
to me, that
Gotcha.
equaled death. So if
Wow.
someone left me or I was alone, you know, energetically, physically, whatever, then that means I felt like I was going to die. And so it
Wow.
was, how do I not be alone? And, you know, if I speak my truth, if I say what I really want, like I'm, chances are I'd lose this person. Right.
Interesting.
And
You
so
know,
what
my
I ended up doing instead is destroying every relationship.
sure, of course.
Yeah.
Mine was just the opposite, actually,
Tell me.
because I think that what I was doing is I was avoiding who I really, really was because I was too afraid that people knowing who I really was going to be too much for them because I'd always been told. I'd always been told you're too much, you're too this, you're too that, right? And so I was so happy alone. I'm also an only child,
Mm,
right? I was so happy alone that in my alone space is when I truly, truly was me, so
mm,
authentically me, doing whatever I wanted, however I wanted. It was like really, really an authentic space for me. But when I got around other people, I was like, I went into self judgment. Like, what are they
mm-hmm,
going to think of me if they actually know who I really, really am, or what I'd really, really rather be doing right now, or, what I like, or this or that. And that space was the space where I said, "Oh, I wonder if I can be more like them, right? In order to gain their approval. Or I wonder if I
mm-hmm,
can do whatever it is that they're doing in order to avoid being authentically me by what I'm really choosing when I'm alone or being alone, or who I really, really am." And it's interesting. It's so because I also went through that phase too where I was into partying and all that kind of stuff. And um I remember I would do this thing where I would go out with a group of people, with a group of friends, and they would always say, "Hey, would you like to do some blow in the bathroom or something?" Right? And they'd give me like the vial or the sack or whatever, and I would go to the bathroom and I would actually literally put it in the toilet, and then I wouldn't do it, and then I'd come out, and then I'd pretend that I knew what it was like to be high, right? And they'd
uh,
be like, "Wow, you're having a great time," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I sure am," right? And then and it really, really kind of was like my inside joke with the universe. And then one night at the Stonewall, I was messing with a drag queen. I was hanging out with a drag queen, and the drag queen grabbed me and pulled me into the stall. Right. So I wasn't in the stall with the drugs myself. I was in the stall with this like world famous drag queen. It was like 1997 at this legendary club in this legendary place, and I'm against the wall, and she's like, "How big of a bump do you want?" And she, and there before I knew it, I actually was doing it. Whereas had I not pretended like I was doing it all that time,
Mm.
she would have never grabbed me and said that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I pretended because I thought that's what everybody else was doing, and this is what I needed to do to be cool, to be queer, to be original, to be exciting. And had I just been authentic with myself and been like, not really my thing, I I would have been fine, right?
Mm.
But I
Mm.
wasn't. And
Mm.
it's those lessons for me that have stood out as lessons that are like, yeah, honestly, I'm really cool with who I am. I'm really cool
Mm.
with who I be, whether I am alone or whether I'm with 1,000 people. I
Yeah.
I ask every day, every time I'm in that situation, how can I be more of me? You know,
Mm.
because it is easy to get lost in it, and it's easy to get lost on Instagram. Somebody said to me the other day, I really really love when you do those stories and you're really you're engaging and you talk and you this and that. And I thought, what does that even mean? I thought I'd do that, And they're like, no,
And
we
you're
like
like,
to see your little your adventures and the things that go on in your life. And I thought, wow, that is so not me, you know?
mm.
And I said, I think I share things when they feel shareable for me. So
Mm.
I'm not going to be that energy that, let's say, Instagram or social media requires, like we were talking about, just because that's what everybody is asking for,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm.
And you have
Beautiful.
such,
Yeah.
and you're so good at being authentic in that space too. I've noticed, when you do a story or when you put something out there, it really, 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 yes, there is an intention behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's an intention of connecting to people. There's an intention of really engaging somebody, but there's such authenticity in it. It's like
Mm.
you've gone through something and then you put it out there or you share it.
Mm.
You know?
Thank you for that resonance. I mean, that's my practice. That's what I literally practice. I mean, it didn't always look like that. There was a couple of years ago, I was working with a really powerful coach. He's
Mhm.
actually been on my podcast, Preston Smiles, and he is a force. And
Yeah.
while I was working with him, I was doing more videos.
Mhm.
And my wife was like, yeah, you're kind of starting to sound like Preston. Like, I mean, it's great, but like, I feel like I'm listening to him now. And that was
Uh-huh.
such great feedback. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize I'd taken that on. And so it's just something I was like, oh, I'm not actually, I thought I was being so authentic. And it was like, I mean, I was, but I was doing something like how I thought it should be, right? It was from here, not from here. And so
Mhm.
my practice is to speak from here every day. And whether on social media or not. But one thing I do want to talk about before we go is some actual really clear like some tools or access that we can give our listeners for how to stop undoing this need to please, how we can start to actually honor ourselves and really give less of a shit about what people think, because it's been my experience that when you do and you really find you and you let that voice out, that everything falls into place, and that everything that doesn't serve you or that
Mhm.
falls off the wayside if you're willing to let it go, if you're willing to let those relationships go that don't serve you, or those, I mean, relationships with people, with things, with food, with whatever, right? We get so attached to things to need to feel safe. So, you
Yeah.
know, what would happen if we just let go and only did the thing that brought us joy? I won't even let I have so many clients trying to find new jobs right now, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Well, why, but this came up," and I said, "Well, is that something you want to do?" No, but then you're not. No, like,
Right. Exactly.
no.
That's not
Why
authentic.
are you pursuing
Mhm.
anything that you don't want to be doing? First of
Also,
all,
when
that's not what
you
you're paying me to do. And second
yeah,
of all, like,
exactly.
we're here
Prove
to do
that.
you. You have
That's
one
right.
life and it could end today or
Right.
tomorrow.
The thing that I want to also reiterate about what you said is the more authentic you become, the more authentic you attract authentic people into your life, right? And the more you attract authentic people into your life, the more you're going to be more authentically you. It's like this energy that keeps perpetuating and gifting to you simultaneously. And it's so interesting you talk about this situation with your coach and how you started to like take on, embody all these things. And Cassie was like, who are you? You being this guy now? Because the pendulum swings every way. Okay. We think it's only about bad people or bad things or bad habits or bad this or bad that, but that's not true. I've been in spiritual organizations. You could even call them cults, in which everybody was mouthing off the same rhetoric over and over and over again, and then you start to get in a space where you're doing it too, and you're mimicking them, and you become a robot for what? And then you stop 10 years later and you're like, wait, what am I saying? I don't even believe that. I don't even believe that. And
Wow.
you asked for a tool, and I've got to say the one thing that has really, really been fun, and I'm going to use the term fun for me in this, is every day I ask myself, who am I? That's it. I'm like, who are you today? Because you also want to honor and recognize you may not be the same person that you were yesterday. So why are you trying to be that person? And who are you trying to make happy, or who are you trying to appease or please or hold up from the past in order to make yourself validated in the here and the now?
Wow.
So why don't you just say, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Who I was yesterday is not who I am today. So I wonder, who am I today?
Yeah.
Who am I today, and what grand and glorious adventures await me? What can I create with this new awareness of who I be?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's fun, you know?
And can you create yes, I love that. I think that's so fun. I just got totally distracted by a message that came in from my agent during this time.
And your agent recognizes how awesome you are.
That's
and
right.
all that you are, and it's like, hey, I've got some work for you, buddy.
So that's my real, like, I get distracted, and that's why I turn off phones sometimes. But being with the real tools here is asking yourself, who am I and what do you want? And so what I wanted to say, if someone's like, well, you last week you were like, yeah, I got clear. Today, here's what I want. Like last week, I did want something different, right?
Yeah.
That you actually can create newly, that you can ask for clarity, that you can ask to be shown who you are.
That's right.
I really try to do one thing a day that lights me up and brings me joy. And that really helps me find myself. And when I get entangled with a partner or emotions, another great tool you've given us is, who does this belong to? Asking us when we're taking on that energy. And the other thing is, like, I really go outside and greet the day every day. And even if it's raining, I'm even now trying, like, I'll just go stand in the rain for a second and then hop in the shower, or I'll stand in the sunshine. And so I'll definitely either walk, ride my bike, or hop on a trampoline now. And so I do that every single day. I've actually put things in my yard that remind me and bring me joy and remind me who I am, that I've got a little kid in me, and that we can really nurture that. And so that's one way I get in touch with myself, is just do one thing you love every day and have more fun. Ask yourself, what do you love? What brings you joy? And where are you not allowing yourself to have joy and pleasure in your life? I think that's also great access to learning about who you are, not giving shit. Because people what someone else loves may not be your thing. Even my wife and I have very different things we like around certain areas of our life. I had a great example this morning. I can't think of it now, but just like, acknowledging, like, yeah, don't like that, but like, you go do that, right? And I'm going to go do this.
Yes.
Not
trying to
even in our own
people.
Yeah,
right?
Even in our own partnerships, like giving that space for our partners to find themselves. But I love, Daniel, I'm going to take that on, asking, who am I?
Yeah.
And what do I really want?
Yeah. What do you think, Ben? I love that you mentioned you bring in the partnerships of it too, right? Because how often, both of us are in very close, intimate relationships with other people. And you just said something that really, really sparked an awareness in me. How often are we actually not being authentic in our partnerships
Mm.
because we want to make the other person happy.
Mm.
We Guillermo and I started doing this thing that we had a really, really interesting uh, point of contrast, we're going to call it, in Italy when we were in Italy. And I had to confront him on something. And we had this confrontation, and the confrontation was, it was not like some big blowout confrontation. It was just like, he's an excellent communicator, but we sat there and he said, "Oh, what were you assuming?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a great question." Well, I was assuming this. I was assuming ABC, XYZ. And I said, "Well, what were you assuming?" And he said LMNOP. And I was like, "Oh, here we go." Based on assumption, we were creating realities for ourselves that worked for ourselves, but that wasn't really congruent with each other. We weren't on the same page. We weren't truly being honest and authentic and congruent with each other. And you know what we started doing? We started doing, like, yesterday was so cool. We started to have one of these talks about our future. And then he just looked at me and he said, "Okay, great. We've been down this road before. Let me ask, what are you assuming?" And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh my God." And we had this talk, and I shared with him what I was assuming. And he said, "Great." And I said, "And what are you assuming?" And he shared. And Ben, it was such a space of pure authenticity to acknowledge the assumptions that we create in our lives are based on us trying to oftentimes please other people or satiate ourselves or do something like that. It's like, wow, our relationship has grown exponentially from this one simple tool. What are
Mm.
you assuming? What are
Wow.
you assuming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's
And
not
and
huge.
yeah, because I'm thinking about it with my partner. Will say like, "You don't do this." I'm like, "Well, why? Like what are you
What are you
assuming?"
assuming
Yeah,
I should
based
do?
off,
Yeah.
yeah. Or I'll tell you thank you for sharing that story. And Cassie, I've heard her say recently, "Well, you're not listening. You're not listening." And I'm thinking intellectually, like, I literally heard every fucking word you said, like, and I heard it each time you said it the last 10 times in a row.
Yeah.
So what I finally said, what does listening look like to you?
Hmm.
I'm curious, like, what does it sound like to you? If I'm listening, like, how can I have you feel? Like, what would you feel
Right.
listening to you is? And at one point, this is gonna blow your mind. She was like, "Well, you just stop talking."
I freaking love her. I freaking love her.
Or at some point, right? It's because I would listen for a long period of time, then I'd want to respond, right? And it was like, what I got was like, just hold space. That's what has my
Yeah,
partner feel heard, not
that's
even
right.
what, like, because I want to be responded to. I want to be heard. I want someone to dance with me. So we've had to really learn, like, what is listening, and then vice
Right.
versa, right? Like, I've had to ask the same thing of her, be like,
So
remember
do
when
you
you
think
told me, like, about that? Like, I realize I'm
yeah.
not feeling listened to right now, and
Do
it's
you think
because,
that you
right.
you assumed that she wanted what you wanted too? Like, do you think that what she
Well,
needed was what you need too?
I mean, I just assumed how I was communicating was so great that it was going to land for her.
That's amazing. And it's so true,
Because
Ben.
we've worked on this like so much, we're even doing couples therapy now to have our relationship thriving, but it's still like we're like,
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
like, what's wrong with you? I don't know, why don't you do it this way? It's like, well, I guess we are really different, right? And
That's
learning about
amazing.
that and
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
like trying that on, you
Yeah.
know.
That is so freaking good, dude. I love it. That's
Good. Well,
amazing.
I'm gonna go practice that with her now. We have a walk
Okay.
scheduled. So
Oh,
I'm gonna go be with my partner, and I would love to hear what's landing for you all today. You can comment, you can send us messages. We have our Wake Up Wednesday Facebook page now.
yay!
You can send us messages, and if there's things that you want to hear about, or you want to talk about, or a question you want to ask, you may not feel comfortable asking us live. Just send us a
Mhm.
message. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah.
And
And
subscribe to the podcast. We would
yes,
love to have you actually listen to it there because there's so many other episodes. And if you rate it,
yeah,
then it helps other people get the message out. So we're just trying to
we're
get the
so grateful.
algorithms of
Yeah.
this positive medicine into the world right now because Lord knows we need it.
Lord knows we need it. Also, I really want to acknowledge, Ben, your new podcast, Dude, You're Getting Well, is so awesome
Oh,
and
thank you.
such additional like it's like a dose of your happy medicine and times a godzillion because your guests are really special and
Mm.
the one that you released yesterday with I believe his name is Ben.
Yeah,
His name is also Ben.
great name.
Yeah, great name. And it was also interesting. I think it was also about so much about personal authenticity, right? And
It
personal truth.
was. Yeah.
And when we are really being personally truthful, then why do we give a shit what other people think of us, right? So
Yeah.
just so you guys know, those of
Thank
you who are
you. That's
listening,
really sweet.
absolutely, please. Also, if what we are talking about today resonates with you, go have a listen to that
Mm.
episode of Ben's most recent "Dude, You're Getting Well" because it also would be a contribution to this, and very grateful for all of that magic that you put out into the world. So
Mm.
thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Daniel.
Ben. Of course, and
Well,
thank
I
you to all
can't.
of you.
Yes, we're so grateful to have you with us and listening. Don't forget to subscribe so that we can continue to send you messages and love. And man, go have an awesome day. Go get
Way too much
curious.
fun. Way have
Yes.
way too much fun. Who are
And
you today, and what
if your
can I
partner
inspire?
thinks you're not listening, you could ask them, what would listening look like to you?
Exactly. What would this thing? And what are you assuming? What are you
Yes.
assuming
And what are
today,
you assuming?
babe?
That's great. All
Amazing.
right. Well, have a beautiful day, everyone. Thank you so much. And we'll see
Bye,
you
guys.
next Wednesday.
Bye, Ben.
Bye.